Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack three topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's double decade. Boom. Welcome to episode 20. That's a cool little milestone.
It is a cool little milestone.
And in the room today, we have Matt Hanham.
Oh no, that's not me. That's maybe. Oh, hello everyone.
Justin Bourn. You are joining us for most of the podcast, maybe.
Yep.
And Mr. Travis Hayto.
Ahoy, ahoy.
And myself, Marco. I'll be hosting today. I've brought the drinks. I've only got three because I didn't expect Justin to be here.
Late edition.
Yeah, well, we can split ours.
We're a bit short-staffed today.
We are. We're missing Conrad and Michael. Michael's in Edinburgh. And Conrad is in the US. Where's he in the US?
He's in LA at the
LA
moment.
now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Or maybe New York on Monday.
Nice.
LA at the moment, New York on Monday.
No, he's already been there.
These are around.
Yeah.
He was already there.
He is,
I
yes.
saw him laying under the ball,
Yes, holding the balls.
holding the testicles.
All right, well, we missed
Check
them
him out
both.
on Insta if anyone cares to see that. Conrad's dream come true.
Missed them both, but we'll get cracking into the drinks.
Pardon the pun.
Today, yes. Today, Hayto's got a basketball match in a couple of hours, so I thought it would be unfair to make him drink any booze beforehand.
So it probably makes me play better.
Oh, really? Well, there's some whiskey over there from a previous episode that we could crack.
Some leftovers.
Just
But I
joking,
brought-
coach. Never tried it before.
But we've got a cool little soft drink from Italy. It's made by San Pellegrino, but it's an aranciata rossa, which is just a blood orange soft drink, which I love.
You
I
make
used
it
to have
sound so
these.
good, but
I used
say
to
that
have
again.
these aranciata rossa.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a proper Italian accent, but
Real
that's
good.
me Spanishing
version.
my Italian.
Bastard.
I
It
used to have,
sounds so good.
I used to
don't
have these ones as a little treat at the end of shifts that I'd work at a bar in Perth called 399. So I'm super excited to have one.
worry. Nice.
Yeah,
Me
so
too.
there
The
you
way
go.
you make it
And
sound so dramatic.
And I'll split one for Justin and myself. And today on content, we have... Oh, man, I've never actually poured into a glass. I've always drunk it. From,
Cold.
Yeah,
Wow.
Right.
I'll take that.
like
and
orangey.
Justin, or you can have that one.
Sure.
Justin.
There you go.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Well,
guys.
cheers, gents.
Oh, we've
got
Happy
the-
Friday.
Didn't even hear that.
No, there's no clink today. It's all
Ching,
No,
ching,
there's no
ching.
ching. Because we've actually got some decent gear now.
True.
We sound legit.
Don't talk about that now.
Your voice sounds like even... I didn't think this was possible, but it's like even sexier in this equipment. Yeah, no comment.
Shooters go.
No comment. I'll enjoy my... No, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but my blood orange soft drink.
Love it.
Are we supposed
Hayto,
to talk
you're
about it today?
Let's do
or-
something. No, can we do a sniff test?
It's a bit fizzy.
It's got a fruity.
Fruit earthwood, guys.
It's got an earthy
Fruit
with fruit
earthwood.
texture. Oh, no, hang on. That's not a.
Gives me
Oh,
a
it's not
tang.
things.
Gives me a tang towards the end of the palate. I don't know. Just talking shit.
Metallic.
Am I up
It is
first? Am I?
fresh.
You're on, Hayto.
I better start something, better not. Okay. One word. Intrapreneur.
Oh, good word.
Intrapreneur. This word kind of came to me not long ago, actually, and it made me think about a few things. But the first thing for me that it kind of I associate with it is I'm 28, okay, and I have so many. I don't have so many people in my life that are like this, but I come across a lot of people in the last kind of 4 or 5 years that are on the same life trajectory. They finish high school, and that was their goal then. And then, their goal was to get a good TR or ATAR or whatever it's called now, and then it's to go to university.
Atari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their goal is to finish university.
I wanted an Atari.
I never got one, so... Anyway, finish...
Let's only interrupt with good jokes. Let's make that a rule.
Come on, is that a good joke? No, it's a good rule. I'll take it. Can we cut that? Cut.
No, I'd prefer
Alright.
Nintendo 64.
Yes.
Same.
My password,
That's because
actually.
you're 28.
Anyway, so their goal is to finish university. And basically, they finish university with flying colours, or they do it half drunk. And then they go out and get a job. and then they enjoy the job
Do
for
they?
2 or 3 years. Oh, some people do, some people don't. I know a lot of lawyers that studied law but can't get a job within the law sort of industry. Anyway, so they go get this job, and within 2 or 3 years, they're bored, or they don't know what to do, or they're not sure about the career, they don't enjoy it. There's all these sort of things pop up. So they start traveling, they start doing all this other sort of stuff. And, I think entrepreneur, the word entrepreneur and the concept has been thrown around so much lately. Because you guys like Gary Vee and those sort of guys that are pushing it, it's like, well, if you don't like it, go follow your passion and that sort of stuff. And like the first thing that comes to my mind with that is fucking hard. Like it's not the easiest thing. There's 3 of us sitting in the room that are balls deep in it.
Come on, there's 4.
It's 4,
But
really.
Marco's just starting the journey.
But the classic story that you've just described.
Exactly, and that's why I kind of brought this to the table today,
Oh.
because Marco is here. I think he could show a lot of insight into this topic. So my question to you is, intrapreneur, I'll go through a definition of intrapreneur first, and this is Mr. Google. A manager within a company who promotes innovative product development and marketing. So I don't know how true that sort of sounds as that sort of definition, but
Wait, can I'll just read it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Cool.
I'll read it out again.
A manager within a company who promotes innovative product development and marketing. Okay.
yeah. So I guess my question to the group today is, how do you become and find your passion within the company that you work for? Or on a flip side as well, so what qualities do you want to find within yourself to become a great intrapreneur? So I guess we probably should talk about what an intrapreneur entails and what it is, and then talk about sort of the qualities that would go well with that.
I'm just catching up on the concept. So this is someone within a company we're
Yes.
specifically referring to. Okay, cool, because
Yeah.
I'd heard I'd heard this word in reference to people that were essentially maybe more like freelance. That's what I had in my head, but
Gotcha.
okay, cool. So we're
Well,
talking about
that-
someone within a company.
That's an interesting, for freelancers as well.
Yep.
But I think entrepreneur within a company is really interesting. I've been exposed recently, it's funny you bring it up, how, hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And then there's that question of like, which I think we've discussed on this podcast, whether everyone's built to be an entrepreneur or anyone could be, which I think had mixed responses.
Oh, sorry.
Ruckus.
That was me. That was my chair, and then I just hit the glasses over. My bad. Sorry, Justin. Go
That
on.
non-alcoholic drink is really getting to us. Because not everyone is... Like, everyone can give it a go, but not everyone's built for it, because it is tough. Like, the stuff they say about, any logical person, why would you do that? Once you've experienced it, you're like, it all starts to make sense. And with social media and everything that kind of glamifies, I guess, entrepreneurship and all the things that come with it, like this freedom and flexibility and cash and all that other stuff is far from true. And I think a lot of people... I think the key is again, finding your passion. What are you really good at? And understanding, which I believe that there are good number 2s out there. Not everyone has to be a number 1. And I think it's finding, I guess, to come back to the question a little bit, it's almost wraps around self-awareness, right? Understanding who you are, what you're built for, and finding, which we've touched on, an organization that you believe so much in their vision and their culture as well. Like, you believe in what that organization as a whole is trying to do, or that company. And then just going all in and doing the best that you can within that, I guess, company. Not everyone has to start their own thing, I guess. Because I have... a team, and I would probably encourage a few of them to be intrapreneurs.
Yeah.
Intrapreneurs.
Yeah.
I think we sort of use the term as if it's binary, like you're an entrepreneur or you're just not. And there's so much, there's a lot of grey area in between, which is where most of us probably sit and live. So like one thing that is interesting is like the entrepreneur is seen to like quit their job, run away and start something. But there's a lot of great people that are now running great businesses and they're entrepreneurs, and they might have been the number two. And they probably wouldn't ever have gone to number one from nothing. But having run that business, been an entrepreneur for a long time, can take and step up and drive that, that business or organization. And I think it's really interesting that I think the other word that I didn't like in that definition was manager, which suggests that you sort of have to be like the number 2 or 3 or 5 in a big organization. Because I think one thing that we've lost sight of in all this noise of this social media around, you've got to be an entrepreneur, like slinging cash, you've got freedom, I'll be hanging out on my island making money online, is that it's just a way of thinking. It's innovating, it's doing something different, and it's organising change. And you can do that at any level in any organisation. You can affect change. And so I think we neglect the impact that thousands and hundreds of thousands and probably millions of entrepreneurial type people could have in affecting change in companies all over the world.
But even on that, right? Even if that entrepreneur gets to the top spot, whether that is, if that's established or whatever, the risk of the original, it's not the same. The elements that person has to deal with is not the same, right? So that's where I would still debate that not everyone's built to be, like, if you're number 2, you're an entrepreneur, I mean, this is probably a bit of a segue. It's not really on the question, but, if someone was, high level leader, manager, and then they get to, say, the top spot in the organization, you would expect, and maybe it's a big assumption, that the organization's pretty stable. So the risks and the stresses and the anxieties and all the bullshit that we typically, what we have to deal with, are not really the same. But that's not to disempower the number 2 to say that they are just as important. And an entrepreneur, I think, an organization is just as important as the co-founders or the founders or whoever of an organization as well.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying about the sort of it's 100 or nothing, because there's only ever going to be the 1% or tiny percent that is the person that sits at the top and the person that founded each organization, especially as they get bigger. Like there's only so many people that can do it globally, but I think we discount everyone behind that in the way that we put them on this pedestal. There's so many important people and so many entrepreneurs all the way down, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of that comes down to risk profile and tolerance. And someone might have a really high risk profile, but just not quite that high, and they're better off in that space.
And that's part of what
working with someone
that's
else.
part of what we're saying, though, right? That is trying to identify that there is actually nothing wrong with doing that. And I think if more people were just accept it, which is probably humility too, right? Just going, look, this is what I'm built for, and I'm going to give it all to this. Whether it's an organisation or a
Well, I
company.
think you hit it on the head before, and it's you got to buy into your company's vision and buy into where the company's mission as well, obviously. Because if you don't buy into it, then you're not willing to go to that next level as an entrepreneur and give that 110% and be still a risk taker and still have those qualities of an entrepreneur, but within a system. So I think it's very important to know that. And it's funny, like I read a few articles on it, and there was 2 that came up. I'm a lover of Richard Branson. I think he's fantastic. And there was actually a fair bit of content.
Oh, you didn't make the book.
What's that? I didn't make. No, I didn't. Another bad joke.
Joke, Mark?
No, that was terrible.
Just going to set that one out.
I think it was too high level.
Yeah.
Anyway, for me too.
No idea.
Anyway, where was
Sorry,
I? Virgin. So Virgin, there was a lot of content on being an entrepreneur within Virgin, and they actually push a lot of content out. And one of their articles was 3 qualities of all great entrepreneurs, which they have in common. And another one that I read was about from Forbes in 2013, and that was the 4 essential traits of entrepreneurs. I'll go through the Forbes one because I think that's quite good. The first one is money is not their measurement. So basically, you're not driven by the money aspect of it. The second one, they are the greenhouses. So when you speak about an intriguing idea to an entrepreneur, the idea never leaves them. It germinates with them, their mind, and they carry with their desire to figure out how to make it work. You speak to them the next day, and they've already started a grand plan on how to execute it. The third one, they know how to pivot. Entrepreneurs aren't afraid to change course, nor do they fear failure. So, actually, we'll go to the fourth one as well. They behave authentically with integrity. So most importantly, entrepreneurs exhibit the traits of confidence and humility, not the maverick behaviour of corporate hotshots. So you could say that entrepreneurs obviously need those qualities as well. So they cross over. But how does that sit with you guys?
In terms of the behaviours of an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
From the experiences I've had, I would agree with them. I mean, I think at an overall high level, the majority of the qualities would need to cross over and be consistent. Probably the biggest difference between maybe I think this is what you touched on, is risk profiling and your capacity to be persistent. Because being the entrepreneur, there's just so much uncertainty. You just don't know what's going on. It's a roller coaster. It's full on. If you don't have the mental toughness for that, that's probably where the switch is. Because otherwise, I think the base core qualities are essentially the same.
And my take on Virgin, sorry, Mike, I'll just chuck this in. My take on Virgin is that they really see themselves and always have as a very innovative group of companies, which is why I'd say they're putting this content out there to their people to try and show them that this is what they value and this is how they want to approach. This was probably communicated to the same people 20 years ago. We just didn't use the word entrepreneur. We just used the word innovation and how they went about things and had a bit of fun. So I think that's just them almost laying down their value set. But I completely agree. And all that changes is, I guess, maybe who might have come up with the original idea, who has the risk profile and who pushes it. And there's always got to be one person, that probably takes the highest point of responsibility at the end of every organisation. Someone's going to make the final decision. They might not always be the number one. Probably a lot of number twos and number threes end up being the person that seems to make a decision in an organisation. But the buck has to stop at someone, right?
And a quick one on that, I think where you started to go with that is the organisation itself, I think, has to encourage it. And that's got to be something that flows through in terms of culture. Because you could work at a company where that stuff is squashed and kept on, like the leadership team doesn't want that because it challenges their ego, and they're like, nah, fuck you, you don't want people within the lower levels to have these great ideas. And so I think it really depends on the organisation that you work for, whether you can flourish in that as that type of individual too.
All right, so going back to kind of the original concept, and that's where I'd probably like to hear about Marco. Tell us a little bit about your journey in the last sort of 18 months with being in the corporate world and then kind of finding your passion, outside of the corporate world, and just chat a little bit about that.
Yep. Excuse me, sorry. My story is of, I think, best summed up in I was in a elite private boys' school, and very competitive by nature. And so the environment there is to get the highest grades and go to uni and do the hardest. So that was the context that I was kind of studying in. And then when I got the grades that allowed me to choose pretty much any subject, I chose to do engineering and finance, because double degree sounded better. I thought people would want that more on my resume, and my dad was an engineer, his dad was an engineer, so I studied engineering. So the reason I give that story is because it took me and then once I finished university, I was approaching finishing university, I'd made my way into petroleum engineering, and I looked at what were the hardest companies to get into and applied for the ones that I thought I couldn't get into but were still the hardest. And luckily enough, somehow got in. And it took about 2 or 3 years of me continuing that work ethic to realize that I was running out of fuel, and I was getting really tired, because normally I'd been able to just continue to grind through the study and all the things that I needed to do to get into those things that seemed quite hard at the time. And my fuel started to run out, and I started getting started questioning where I was. And I realized that all the decisions I'd made up until that point had been based on what I thought people would think of me. And so I picked really hard I picked really hard subjects because I thought people would think I was smart. I picked going to Shell because it was very hard to get into, and it had a great reputation, and oil and gas pays well. But none of them had ever been because I wanted to truly be a petroleum engineer. I have a passion for subsurface uncertainty and big scale engineering projects. None of those things really excite me. I'm not a typical engineer in those respects. So that's the context of where I got to in questioning where I was. And then I went through a period of, I'm going to take some time away from work. I took unpaid leave for 4 months, and then I've been back part-time. And all I've done in that spare time has been try a whole bunch of different projects, because all I knew was I didn't want to do that, but what am I doing about figuring out what I do want to do? So I went through a bunch of different projects. Some went well, one failed. When that one failed, I decided to put together a video to try and raise money for the funds that I needed for that project. And actually, in making that video, managed to answer the question of what do you lose track of time doing, which is a question that you guys have heard me ask before. I've mentioned it on this podcast. I lost 7 hours making that video and was like, well, there's my answer. I found it through the failure of a couple of things and a long journey of giving myself some space. So yeah, sorry, the long-winded answer. That was a long-winded answer, but I think it gives good context to where I'm at. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was the original intent of your question, how do you get passionate about being within an organization?
Yeah, it's more for, like, say someone who is passionate about engineering, right? Say if it is about for someone, sorry, Justin Bourne's leaving at the moment, so he just put me off my train of thought. Bye-bye. Yeah, say it is for someone that loves engineering, right? But they're still stuck in a corporate hierarchy. How does that person who has these qualities excel in what they do?
So can I just cut you off? Because I think you need to find the right place. So I wouldn't define you, Marco, as an intrapreneur. Like in this respect, you might be at your workplace, but you're actually working there part time to basically cover your cost of living while you apply yourself towards a different vocation. So my view of an intrapreneur is more someone who's definitely behind the cause of what what their career or place that they're at is. So I wouldn't like you've moved into a working towards a freelancer to potential entrepreneur space, depending on how and where you take it. But I think you may still have entrepreneurial tendencies. You might be questioning things at work. We just don't know about those because you're not that passionate that you talk about them all the time, right? So it's more about, I think, those people within the companies that are, so basically to answer your question there, Trav, I just think if you're not passionate about what your company does, find a way to do the thing that you do in a place where you think you could be.
I have a slightly different view in that I can understand why people would work somewhere that they're not passionate about. If they've done the analysis of what the benefits are of what they're getting in that place, and they outweigh the fact that they're not behind the cause of the company, or any raft of other reasons, then I can totally see it, because for a while there, what I did was, when I was really unhappy at work, what I really worked on was gratitude for the fact that I had that job. So my journaling was a lot around, I'm really grateful that I can go to work today because I can contribute to this team. And I just forced myself to feel that gratitude, and knew that was that even though I didn't necessarily buy in, or I still don't necessarily feel overly passionate about what we do, the fact that it was covering my cost of living was enough. And it was allowing me to have all of this other spare time, and they were offering me the flexibility to work part-time. So I have nothing but gratitude and respect for the way that they've treated me. When I do finally leave, I will leave really grateful, and I still hold the company in really high regard. What has happened though is that I've now realized that it's not enough for me to be kind of dipping my toes or like kind of straddling the fence. I want to go full into the other one, and I want to accept those risks. But you can operate as both.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't saying you were an intrapreneur.
No, I didn't think you were.
I was
either,
just saying that your story is very similar to a lot of people I know in sort of my generation that around social circles.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that are passionate about their jobs, but they don't know how to excel at it within the system.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted to get back to the qualities, because that's very applicable to people within that system who do love what they do.
Yeah.
You know, say Ashby, she's a teacher. Right. So how does she? So Ashby's my wife. She's a teacher. How does she take those qualities, or that entrepreneurship, and make change for? It might be only 30 kids or 25 kids that are in her class, but how does she do it within the systems that confide her? Because she's so extremely passionate about it. She's not an entrepreneur. She doesn't want to go out and start her own thing. She loves what she does. She loves evoking change in the kids and seeing them grow from start of the year to the end of the year. And that's where the article was quite good, because money isn't the measurement. Like, you can't do what you do purely for the money facts, because you will get found out at the end of the day. Like, there's an element of that in yourself.
By yourself,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because you get found out because you're unhappy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
That's what I think it is. You just because if you're someone that works really hard and pushes yourself a lot, but the reasons that you're doing things are external, that fuel is very thin, and it'll run out, and you'll crash, and you'll find yourself out. I've been very clear with the people that I work for that I'm there because it affords me this flexibility and it pays well. And that was a really great conversation to have. But that's running out for me.
And because you have that clarity, right?
Yeah.
You will perform better in your role than the person that's doing that role, but can't see a vision and a path forward.
Yeah.
Because they will just be consumed by that thought process in a negative frame, not able to see and feel and taste that gratitude.
Yeah.
And therefore they're not. And look, this is probably a massive percentage of the population that sits in this sort of frame. They've got somewhere because of their intelligence, their skills, etc., but it hasn't connected to heart. And they're now stuck because they're getting too much money potentially from what starting again or making a pivot might look like. We get down the path where they've made a lot of life choices. They're past a particular age. They might have family, other things that they can't just make a pivot without putting some serious effort into it.
But going to the question you were talking about Ashby and asking how does she affect change within the structures that she is quote unquote confined to? That's what you were asking?
I just wanted to make it applicable to your Joe public that was unsure where they were, but they wanted more from what they're actually doing, but they do still love what they're doing, but they were just unsure of how to go about it. That's where I was coming from, because I think there's a lot of people in the situation you were saying, Matt, where yes, there are a lot of unhappy people who live for the weekend and live for their holidays, but I think there is a big percentage of people that love what they do, but they still want to push the envelope and have that entrepreneur mindset for the business, for the company that they work in. And just people just don't know how to go about that or what to practice, or and it's like Justin was saying, that humility and the gratitude of the scenario that you're in, firstly, I think is a big thing. But yeah, I just wanted to bring the topic up.
I reckon, well, I mean, I'm not a great authority to talk on it, but just try stuff. It would be my suggestion for people that are feeling stuck and don't and want to be able to affect more change, because sitting there wishing you could is only going to cause you stress and anxiety. Whereas just trying to test a small boundary somewhere, you'll feel a little better. And if it goes completely wrong, then you try a different boundary. And then if you find that none of those boundaries move, then I'm sure that wherever they're working, it's not the only organization that does that. So test until you find that actually, no, the whole thing is broken with respect to how I fit in here, and then move.
Cool. Well, I might lead that straight into
Cool.
my topic, because it was born. My topic pops up because of just a few meetings that I've had over today and also during the week, and I wanted to just raise and discuss the importance of choice, and I think it sort of really does lead into leads into this from the conversation we're having. And I guess one of the things I was considering is that we really only do make a few really significant decisions throughout our life.
Okay.
And whether that be partner, career related, even if we adjust careers, like for the most part, people, I think on average, end up having 3 careers in their life, where they've got 3 different vocations. So I was thinking, at what point do we actually make these choices versus they just sort of happen to us, for across the general public? But it got me basically Googling things like, how important, what is the importance of choice? How do we make important choices in our life? And I pulled up a passage by Dr. Bobby Stevens. That's a cool name, in an article that's titled "The Importance of Choices." So, it is so important to understand that we are all making choices all the time. Even when we choose not to choose, we have still made a choice. It is our choices that determine our experiences. The choices we are making today will show up in our experiences in the future. Unless we are willing to take full responsibility for ourselves and the choices we make, we have no control over our lives. We have been given all the power to create our experiences through our choices, but if we believe that outside forces are responsible for our choices, we give away all the power we have. Sometimes making the right choice or even knowing how to choose is very difficult, but it is vitally important to understand that you are in charge of your own life if you choose to think for yourself. If you choose not to take charge, you will experience the consequences of that choice and simply be blown about like a leaf in the wind. And that reminded me of a phrase that Conrad often says, which I can't quite, something about you smashed against the rocks, something of your own folly. But anyway, so I wanted to raise that passage because I feel like I've just witnessed recently a lot of just choices not being made by people and things just eventually happening by default. And I was curious to, I guess, raise that as a topic and just see what you thought about that passage and my sentiment this week.
Do you
want me to give you more than that?
Yeah, are you going to give us any more than you've noticed people not making decisions and then things happening to them?
Okay, well, I'll give you a sort of generalised answer because I won't raise people that I'm talking about, but let's talk about business. So I've clearly witnessed people in business this week that I believe are almost sort of lucky to still be there. And look, I'm way back in the day, I started life in my career life as an insolvency accountant, and I definitely saw people as I was helping, like pulling businesses apart and trying to put them back together and sell them, people that just didn't seem cut out for the job. But they'd made the choice to start something like at the right time somewhere, or what they just sort of whether it was luck, whether that was their decision or not, but they just weren't cut out for the what was going on now. And I feel like I see people make those decisions, say, to start something, if I'm talking in a business sense, and then lots of little things, bad things, happen over and over again until eventually, let's say, that business is dead. But they just didn't. They made a choice to start and become an entrepreneur, like in the early days. But then they didn't want to tell Marco that you're not doing it right, and then they didn't want to tell Travis that we could do things better this way. They start taking the easy path rather than making decisions and choices, and eventually they end up with a big problem. It's all about momentum, and there's a book called The Slight Edge as well, which is a pretty cool book, and it's just about those little decisions and little habits every day. Either your momentum's going forward or it's going backwards. And in this case I'm talking about, eventually this is a loss of a business. It probably lasted as long as it did because of luck in terms of economics and markets and things like that, versus the skill of the operator, so to speak.
It's far easier to lie to yourself than be truthful.
Yeah.
And in a business sense, I was doing it this week. Monday, Tuesday, I was like, I need to make these 5 phone calls, follow up these leads. Yep, I'll do it. And then comes Wednesday, and I was like, no, you're gonna actually do it today, because you've put it off Monday and Tuesday for that reason. Because I was lying to myself. I was saying I can't do it, or I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. I'll do it. I don't need to. But at the end of the day, you have to be 100% truthful with yourself, especially if you're in that leadership role and you're the head of the point,
because it's bigger than you, right?
Absolutely.
Other people matter too.
Yeah, but when it comes down to life choices, you're taking a passage from what you just read before, and you're making a choice by not making a choice. Mm-hmm. By sitting on the fence and not making a choice, you're choosing it not to be in your destiny, and then you're choosing for yourself to play the victim at the end of it when it doesn't go your way, because you said, oh, well, I didn't make that choice, it's not my fault. And personally, I think that's a very unhealthy way to live, because, yes, you're going to make bad decisions, you're going to make bad calls sometimes, but if you own your own shit and you make your decisions and you live by it, I think you're going to be far better off in a business sense, in a life sense, in a relationship sense, in a just life sense.
I think it's like most of the stuff we raise, it makes so much sense, and then it is so hard to implement and execute.
Oh yeah.
Even because I totally agree with it. Own all your own shit, and understand that if you choose not to, or if you choose not to decide, then that's action and decision in itself. And at a high level, I can see all the stuff that I'm deciding and acting on, but then, even on the next things down in a day, or the next things down, you can always go down and be like, well, I'm not making a decision there, so I'm choosing the maybe less beneficial outcome for what I'm going for. And then you just have to reflect at the end of the day, be like, well, on balance, did I make, or was I present enough to make decisions that get me to where I want to go, or not? And you'll have some days where you have real slack days, and you have some days where you're going where you want to go. But I'm a massive advocate for that stuff, and I think I really pick up on when people, because I have it so front of mind, I really pick up when people, I don't know if you guys get this as well, but you just pick up when people make themselves the victim in really seemingly stupid stuff, and just play the victim.
The victim of themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it is themselves,
and
right?
So I think I'm on the right track from that perspective, that I'm at least aware of it. But do I do it every single second of every single day? No. But do I try to with the big things? Yes.
Yeah. Well, as I sort of threw that generalised statement there, and not that I wasn't.
No, but I
in the
don't think it's
first
a
place.
bad thing to throw generalised statements out
But
there.
I threw that there, and I was like, basically, you're talking about yourself as well.
Yeah.
Because as I generalised that, I'm like, yeah, that situation, this situation, like we all do it.
Yeah.
And you're just watching it, going, all right, what is it about us? Like, because I don't think laziness is the answer. Like, why do we not make the choices? Like, why do we? Yeah, does it tie back to the strength of the vision? I mean, what is it that sort of causes us? Like, Hayto, I mean, what you just said. I can't even count how many times I've rolled in on Monday and said I was going to do this and that, and then rolled in on Tuesday and said today I'm really going to do this, and then not like you didn't do anything that day, but because you carry those over. That's all you seem to remember the next morning when you wake up. And you carry, like you say, Marco, the balance of momentum. So you wake up the next morning saying, yes, I made momentum towards where I want to be going, or no, I really let that down. Because it's not really about your output of work. It's just your sentiment on it, right?
I think it's a two-pronged answer, or my theory anyway, is knowing your vision very well, really well. Because if you know your vision and know where you want to go, then you can make your decisions based on wanting to be carrying out your vision. And the other thing as well is the second part to that is knowing your beliefs as well and your values. So to go to your vision, obviously you have to make decisions, but if you're making decisions that don't align with your beliefs and your values to get to your vision, then you're not going to execute and action those things, all the time when needed. That's why, like, sometimes I put it off. Like, you're saying that you're going to go, I'm going to do this, and it's like, well, why am I actually doing it? Why do I need to do it? What's the bigger picture here, rather than it's just a small little blimp on the map.
I guess the counter to putting off all of those. I was having this exact chat with my housemate on a run this morning, where seemingly stupidly trivial admin tasks that we need to get done for the house, right? Just like we came home slightly inebriated one night and smashed a mirror that we had in the bathroom. So I went out that week, bought another mirror to put in the bathroom. That mirror has still not gone up in that bathroom. Yet in that time, right, I managed to learn a whole bunch of stuff, say videography wise, and he's managed to book multiple flights and organize visas in different countries to race in different Ironman races, which are big logistical things. But you do get these little things that, like, your admin. So tying it back to the admin stuff, I think a good counter to that is be like, well, why am I finding it so difficult to do it? Not why do I want to do it? It's why am I finding it so difficult? And then when you see, it might be because it's going to be a slightly like uncomfortable conversation. You go, really? That's it? That's the reason? And you trivialize it and you make it that small. You go, okay, well, I'm just get it done. Like, what's the worst going to happen? And put it in a positive note. Like, maybe I'm going to learn to be a little bit more resilient in an awkward conversation on the phone. So I'm going to do this now, and then I'll write one sentence on how much I learned, and then you feel great. I don't know, but
on the flip side, right? I think this comes back to like what you said about that achievement mindset, and the reason why you started your story about I went to this school. This was the mindset. It was all about doing the hardest thing, grabbing the double degree, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's the problem with it, because it doesn't matter that the mirror's not up, right?
No, it doesn't.
The problem is that you told yourself you had to do it last Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is that in your mind you said, I need to achieve that thing.
Yeah.
But that thing is fucking meaningless, actually, in truth.
Yes, we're back to my main thesis at the moment, which is everything is meaningless anyway.
But the only problem is that, but you'll beat yourself up, like, every day for weeks over something stupid and trivial, spend more time on that than other things, and more time on thinking about it than it would take to stick the bloody thing on the wall. But it's because you told yourself you had to have it done.
Yeah, but a good a good counter to feeling anxious about, because let me tell you guys, I'm totally at peace now that mirror is not up, and it's actually just a funny thing that we refer to from time to time.
The mirror doesn't align with your vision, so
exactly.
who
It doesn't
cares?
need to
Because
go
it's a
up.
bit low now on the wall.
Yeah, but like putting it up is not that
I know,
important.
but I was just using it as an example, but
No, but I agree. I feel like I do this a
Yeah.
lot. And then I'm like, why am I giving myself crap? Because I wrote that thing down at the bottom of 7 things I wrote down that I had to do today.
Yeah.
Because I decided that today I had to achieve whatever was written on paper.
Yeah.
It's not that it was never important. But I'll do that. Like exactly that. What mirror is the perfect analogy for
But
it.
also what I find quite empowering is if I get to the end of the day and then do a bit of a review on have I done what I wanted to do today? I've got a bunch of questions that I ask myself and do a little bit of writing on. If the answer is no, and I start feeling anxious because maybe it's the second or third day that the answer is no, then I go, well, actually, I've been making decisions that have put me in this place. So that's where I've put myself. So yeah, you're back to the thing, the passage, which is it's all a decision. And when I essentially you're just confronting yourself there and you own the fact that you're not doing the work, then your actions aren't mapping to your words. So shut the fuck up or get it done tomorrow or get it done now. Like start right now, don't go to sleep, do the stuff. If you can sleep, then they're not that important.
Have you ever had your to-do list there and like just done something like 5 minutes earlier and you write it on and then cross it out?
Yeah,
Just
all
to
the
add-
time. Yeah.
I actually have.
You actually wasted the 5 seconds.
Everyone does that.
Actually have.
You got to do it.
Oh, that sense of joy though is.
You've already done it. I don't think I've ever carried anything over from the day before, but I'm pretty sure I've like got up, finally wrote down 3 or 4 tasks at like 9 or 10 a.m. and I've already ticked off a couple. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you finish writing your to-do list and then you add write to-do list and you're like, tick.
Oh god.
No, cool. Well, I really believe in that passage, and I like to call myself out on it because at a high level I'm always thinking about it, and I might get in some people's faces about it, but then I can always find somewhere where I'm not honouring it, and yeah, I just keep going down further and further there. But it serves as motivation and it serves as accountability to myself, and it also serves as a counter to if I'm feeling anxious about not getting somewhere. It's my fucking that's my fault. It's no one else's fault. It's my fault.
I think right? Like we do sort of subconsciously know that there is a decision that needs some action, and we let it fester. And the more that we do let it fester, we find ourselves in a bad place for a lot of things, and we actually probably find ourselves starting to make other bad decisions because it's all momentum based. And I guess I'm always trying to look back on that. There's always something that's not being done or should be done, and ironically, I think a lot of it is habit and system based. So you make a decision like, for whatever reason, I fell out of hitting the gym for a few weeks, right? We know why. Gyms change. People that own gyms change. But all of a sudden it's a few weeks and I haven't been there because something broke in my typical system and my typical flow. So just this morning I started back up. It's a new system and all I had to do was that one thing. Make that couple of quick messages. All of a sudden I'm back on a new rhythm and it'll go again. But why did I wait 3 weeks to fix it?
Exactly.
Like it should have been fixed the next day. And I didn't have to like carry through, time problem up for 3
you
weeks.
just did nothing about it.
For 3 weeks, I did nothing about it. I made no decision, and all it did was create negative momentum across that and other aspects of life. So it's crazy.
Cool. Well, Hayto, cheers for the Intrapreneur discussion, and Maddie really thoroughly enjoyed that on decisions and owning your shit.
Yeah, I think
essentially.
we should do this with 3 more often. What do you?
Oh, look, I think smaller
we
crowds
just
are
branch
better.
off.
Yeah, we're done. This is the Rogue, Splinter Minds podcast.
Actually, let's just fire the other 3.
No, we need Justin's sweet tones. So I think.
I actually don't listen to him. I just hear him.
Oh yeah. Do you just cut out all of his sections and then run them through to go to sleep essentially now?
Actually, yes.
That would be
That's
good.
how-
We would probably be more popular and successful as a podcast if that's what we just did. We just took all of Justin's quotes and words and
I
just
could see
put
the
that out
YouTube
as
channel.
just as a
Let's-
sleeping remedy.
Let's get him to read 50 Shades of Grey or something like that, and we'll release it as an episode a week.
Yeah.
They might have a problem with that.
All right, cheers, boys.
Boys,
We'll
been a pleasure.
catch you next time.
Later.
Champagne.
oh, hang on. What about the drink, guys? What about the drink?
Oh, what about the drink? Love it. But I knew I was going to love it. So what did you guys think?
I thought it was a refreshingly expensive-looking Fanta.
Yeah.
I agree.
Tasty. Quite enjoyed it. And refreshing to be not drinking an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
As it.
I wonder if listening back it's going to be any different content-wise, but if it goes any deeper or not, because we weren't slightly buzzed. But yeah, cheers, gents.
Thanks, guys.